It's Time Warner Cable's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Paul Audley. He is the president of Film LA, which is what?
Film LA is the city and county's film office. It's sort of the equivalent of a film commission. It's a private nonprofit that's under contract to about 18 jurisdictions now.
I want to talk about film production in Los Angeles. I was reading some statistics, forgive me, but I love statistics. And when you look at pilot production, in 2014, 44% were made in Los Angeles. In 2006, 82% were made in Los Angeles. That's the wrong direction, sir.
It's a terrible direction, and it's almost exclusively due to this competition of tax credits in the other states. They're not eligible here for a tax credit, and the result is that other states have grabbed the pilots from us.
It's interesting. It seems like every few years there's kind of a jurisdiction du jour. You know, it was Vancouver for a while, then it was North Carolina, then Louisiana. It seems like New York, they're the big gorilla right now. Am I right?
New York is a huge gorilla. They've had a sustained tax credit at $420 million over time, which is great for the industry. Had a lot of growth there. Georgia and Louisiana have maintained a very, very strong position over time as well. Both have uncapped tax credit programs.
Wow. How do we compete with that?
Well, we have to at least compete with New York. I mean, that's always been LA's major competitor for television and film, and we have to be able to fight that battle on their turf.
And right now, our program is capped at $100 million.
Correct.
I'm sure you saw the spread in the LA Times a few weeks back that talked about how people would apply for this tax credit program. The applications were so massive, it was a pure lottery, and people said right in that article, if I don't get the credit, I'm gone.
They do. They leave. I mean, it's why we've seen our feature production is well below 50% of where it used to be in its peak year of '96. And starting in 2008, when these other states and countries began to realize the value of dramatic television, we've dropped off dramatically there as well.
But there is potential good news. Right now in the legislature, there is a bill marching forward. I understand it's cleared the Assembly. As we speak today, it's percolating in the Senate. We don't know the figure, but it could triple, quadruple from $100 million. Is that fair?
It is fair. It has to if we're going to compete. We're losing vendor base now. We're losing crew base to these other states. And if California doesn't begin to truly fight and compete in this battle, we'll become a second-tier production center.
At the same time, I think part of the challenge that the industry faces is that you need 40 votes in the Senate, let's say, as an example. Many of those senators don't represent Los Angeles. They're from North State or the Central Valley, and they think about giving a tax credit to entertainment so they can fly their jets to Cozumel. But I think that's a misnomer. I mean, I'm an Angelino, so I know it's a misnomer. Explain why that's a misnomer.
Well, there's two things wrong with the image of giving this to the top folks at the studios, and that is that this only applies to below the line, to the typical people you think of as the crew and those kinds of expenditures. But the other thing is we've enlisted northern film commissions and cities and mayors to sign on to this and explain to their legislators why it's important to the north and the far south of California as well. It's been very effective this year. They held a rally in San Francisco and had more than 500 people show. And San Francisco, like LA, has suffered from this loss of production. They're not as large a center as LA, but they've noticed it and it hurts.
So the credit would be for the state of California, of course. Can LA do something specific?
LA's done a lot with making their facilities free to film in and other things to help along the way.
Literally city-owned facilities.
Right. But the difficulty they still have with budget is they are not currently able to compete by adding to the tax credit additional funds.
Because?
Because they just don't have the money in the city.
I understand.
But the truth is that if the state's task force comes in with this money, the state legislature comes in, we don't think the city will have to step up too much.
Okay, his name is Paul Audley. He is the president of Film LA. My name is Brad Pomerance, and this is Time Warner Cable's Local Edition.